Welcome back to Community Building Yamhill, the podcast. And my guest this morning is Richie Inman from Provoking Hope. Richie is an outreach navigator and has a few other titles as well. So we're going to chat with him about that. Richie, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Doug. It's a pleasure.
Good, man. Is there a little bit of a delay here?
There is a little bit, yeah.
A little bit of a delay. We're just going to work with it because sometimes the Wi-Fi connection is not the best. Even though we're probably only a few miles from each other, right? You're in the office of Provoking Hope right now?
Yes, sir.
Maybe you need to get up on the roof and get those rabbit ears, in the old days of rabbit ears. Maybe you need to get up there and adjust those.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Maybe that would work. All right, man. So Richie and I did this about a week ago, and there were some weird things that went on with the camera that we didn't even realize. So we laughed about it and said, let's just reschedule it. And we knew that we did kind of a practice run. So we could probably be a little bit more efficient this morning. So Richie, thanks again for being here. Let's start with, tell us about your position at Provoking Hope, and then tell us about this recent event that you went to. Let's do with those two things. And then we're going to drop in and tell a little bit about your story. And then we'll get more current with what you're doing on the streets of McMinnville. So tell us about your position at Provoking Hope.
Yeah, I'm registered with the state of Oregon as a peer support specialist. But what I do is I'm in outreach engagement. I'm an outreach navigator. So one of my titles is that I go out into the community and I meet people where they're at and basically come alongside them to the point to where one day they come in for services and then we navigate them to services like detox or treatment or maybe housing or shelter or whatever that is. That's one of the hats I wear. Another hat is I'm a justice navigator as well. So I work with the prison system and the jail system and the community corrections. And we work with our community partners in getting individuals into treatment and housing and stuff like that. And that's basically what I like to do is just navigate people from one point to the next point, change.
And then what about there's two houses that are owned by Provoking Hope here in McMinnville. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because you are also involved in that work on a daily basis.
So I'm a house manager of two houses as well. And when our peers on the streets, they decide they want to go into treatment, then we do our best to provide them with the housing. That way they have a safe place to kind of start getting back into, job or stay in treatment or whatever that is so that they can get some healing in their life, right? Yeah, so I have two houses here in town.
What does it look like? And these houses, by the way, are owned by Provoking Hope?
I think we lease them. Yeah, we lease them.
Oh, you lease the houses. Okay. And how long has Provoking Hope been doing the housing piece? Or has that always been a piece of Provoking Hope's work?
Well, I think I've been here for a little over a year, and I've been involved. They've probably been doing that, I'm pretty sure, for a little over 5 years. I'm not completely accurate on that, but I think they have a woman's house in Dayton as well.
Okay. All right, man.
Yeah.
These are two male occupied homes.
Yeah.
Here in McMinnville. Wow, are you stretched pretty thin? I mean, you just described 3 different types of navigation, if you will, that you do.
Well, Doug, they say if you enjoy what you do, you never have to work a day in your life, right?
All right.
I do get stretched a little thin sometimes because, quite frankly, there's not too many people reaching out into the community like we do. It would be nice if more people would get out and kind of get different touches. It would be more effective, right? Yeah. But I enjoy what I do. Yeah, I enjoy what I do.
Can you give us an example let's say a Tuesday of any week when the weather's good or even when the weather's bad? When you go to work and you go out on the streets.
Usually on a Tuesday.
Just any Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. I assume you work 5 days a week or maybe more. Give us an example of what happens for you.
We drive around into the community and we go out and we meet people, like say a person holding up a sign or maybe a person under a bridge or maybe somebody at a campsite. And we go out and we just approach and tell them that they already know who we are because we're building a decent rapport. And we basically just ask them like, hey, is there anything that would help you at this point with socks or maybe just the simple stuff like maybe some bathing wipes, right? Or a cup of coffee or whatever that is, to try to kind of build that rapport and let them know that, hey, there's something different. We don't give them what they need to stay where they're at, we basically help them see that we care about them enough to, if they want, we'll walk with them into the next season of life. So we just ask them, try to get them into our office down here, so where we can kind of better get them in a private setting to talk about some of the things going on and find out a little bit more. Yeah.
So it sounds like the building trust piece is really important.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I assume you have to be patient with that process because I'm sure there's distrust because
Yeah.
things have been mismanaged and people have been not related too well and all those kind of things. So I assume patience is one of the things that you pray for.
Yes, sir. Yeah, like approaching somebody on the streets that don't want to hear anything you have to say because they're in active addiction is it's kind of like a fine approach with a language that draws people to that helps them see that there is something better, because a lot of times they've already gone through this process a couple, 3 or 4 times, and decided to go back to what they all know all too well, right? Because life is hard when you don't know how to live life, like, and you don't know what, you don't trust anybody, and then you come into that, going into that, there's already some stigma and some stuff involved, right?
Richie, what do you mean by know how to live life? What does that mean?
Well, there's individuals on our streets that have been out here for 10, 15 years. All they know is, and some of them struggle with maybe some mental health and maybe some abuse and trauma or whatever that may be. Addiction is just a byproduct of some other things, right? So they've been out here. This is all they've been doing is picking up cans and digging in trash cans and whatever that is to our community that addiction fuels, right? And their choices have become normalized in the things that they do. So they have to learn how to pretty much just wash dishes when they come into our houses, or maybe even make their bed, or whatever that is. And that's where the house managers kind of teach them what to do in that aspect too, and get them to sustainability to where they just learn how to just live in a house, right? Treatment's one thing, but dealing with others, but really coming into a place to learn how to live. Like some of these guys haven't had houses in decades.
Yeah, right, right. So if I'm somebody living on the streets and I meet you, and over a period of time we build rapport, and by invitation or by my own initiative, I show up at your office one day and I say, "Hey, I want to go into treatment. I'm ready to do that." What are the next steps and what are the options? How many places do people go to?
Well, we're limited in the options that we have within our county. So the very first thing is to just kind of meet them where they're at, figure out if they're on probation or supervision. Uh, Once that's established, then we talk to their PO with, of course, release of informations, so that we can maybe see if they could go to. We have partnerships with people in Portland. We have partnerships with people in Shed, in Bend. And so a lot of times we have to get that permission to get them to, like, whether it's inpatient or, we have outpatient treatments in Portland that actually have housing available when they decide to go into treatment. We have a lot of the individuals up there right now that we've met in the streets. So we have to figure out what background they have. Maybe they have, like, maybe there's a background that they can't be around certain types of certain, or maybe youth, or they have an arson charge or whatever, and they can't. Some of these treatment places, they have these restrictions to where certain individuals can't go into. So we just try to find out what those restrictions are so that we can navigate them the best possible way.
Are these programs that are outside of the county or maybe in the county as well? Are they 30-day programs, 60-day programs, 90-day programs, 120 days?
We usually have a 90-day program, and
Okay.
then the year-long inpatient program is in Shed and Estacada and Bend and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. And I know that when we did this mock run last week, you and I, this kind of practice run, you talked about the jail and prison work that you do.
Yeah.
And then you just got back from an event that had something to do with that. Would you tell us about that?
So we have what's called our core program. It's corrections, outreach, and reentry. And when I came into Yamhill County about a year ago, a lot of relationships came with me, and we developed this program, which they already had one that reached into to the jails here. I reach into all the state prisons and individuals within our county that are coming into our county in reentry. What we do is we usually pick them up, take them to their parole officer, and then decide if they want to come into housing and do treatment, because most AICs that are returning citizens, they have to do some sort of treatment when they come out, so that what we're able to do is keep our community safe and encourage and walk alongside the returning citizen with accountability, of course, and then watch their lives change, watch our community get safer. So we reach into the system, and we've developed relationships with all the transitional coordinators. And it's actually to a point that we have other counties reaching out, wanting us to show them how we've been able to have such a success rate and a retention rate with our guys. So it's very impactful for me to understand that little Yamhill County, what we've been able to do is set the model for other counties across the state that want to follow what we're doing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. In talking with you, you seem to be not that you're not committed and enthusiastic about all of your programs, but it seems like this prison program kind of holds a special place for you.
Well, it does hold a very special place. Also, our prevention program holds another place too, but we could get to that maybe later.
Sure.
But the prison inreach is really impactful to me because I'm dealing with corrections officials now and stuff like that, and I haven't always felt that way.
What do you mean? You haven't always felt that way?
Well, I've spent most of my life there. You know that, right? I've spent over 20 years incarcerated myself.
Well, I know that, but many people listening don't know about that. So that's a perfect segue into your story.
Yeah. So most of my life actually started, just to get there real quick, is my parents were in the criminal element. They were drug addicts and drug dealers. So I would say from like a very young age, like I was kind of groomed into take for instance, I used with my parents, right? My dad actually, my mom was a diabetic, and my dad actually needed the apparatuses that she used for her insulin so that he could get high with them. So here's one teaching. My dad actually taught me how to steal those from her and sell them to the people out on the streets and make money. And one thing about that is that I was making money and I thought that it was good. And this was like age 5 and 6, right? So when I would get caught by the cops and the cops would come to our house, my father would beat on me, not because of the act of selling the syringes to people out on the streets, but the act that I brought the cops to the house and messed up his hustle. So there's many, many things that actually grew me into criminality. And after he died from the very same syringes that he would steal out of the trash after my mom hit him, he would get them out of the trash. He died from that actual practice. I would take those teachings with an addicted mom and just navigate my way through life. And from the age of about 24, I've been in prison since then. So there's many, many stories of my criminality and addiction and all those types of things that got me to a point to where I just was in prison for 22 years up till 2020. The crazy thing about prison is that it's the very same teachings in there that I kind of increased in, because it's a bunch of people just like me that were in the criminal mindset that propelled me to be a gang member in there, right? So I did a bunch of things in there that actually became normal to me as well, to such a point that when I got released in 2020 during COVID, I actually couldn't function. And I remember it was like living in a third world country. I was in Marion County, and all I really wanted to do was do something different. But I was culturalized in prison with that mentality, and the society in general, it didn't mesh, right? The teaching. So basically what I had decided was I would just get back to prison where I was accepted and where I was somebody, right? And so I committed crime in Marion County. When I went to the courts, I told them they actually released me because of a population thing and COVID, right? Mm-hmm. So for the life of me, I'm getting released at midnight for a 30-month crime that I normally would go to prison for. I couldn't figure out why. For the first time I told the truth, I got released. I should have been doing it the whole time, you know? Anyways, so the crazy thing about that is that I just wanted to go back to prison. So I came to Yamhill County here. And I did the same thing over at Wendy's on 99. A guy was in his car, and I basically jumped in his car and told him to call the cops. He tried to pull me out, so I hit him a couple times and told him to call the cops on me so I could get to jail. Well, that added more onto the charges, and so I didn't care at the time, right? And so I was glad the cops came, and finally, they put me in the Yamhill County Jail. Well, I'm cool with that because that's where I was trying to go. That was my plan the whole time.
Yeah, it didn't work out in Marion County, so you came to Yamhill County to do a repeat.
So here I am in Yamhill County. Yeah, here I am in Yamhill County, and when I go to my arraignment, I tell Judge Collins exactly what I tried to do. And this judge actually intervened, and he had me evaluated by a psychologist. And when
Now,
a
is that
psychologist,
let me ask you this, Richie. So that's something that you had never, no judge had ever required that before.
no public official had ever looked at me in any type of way other than you're going to prison, or you're going.
Hmm.
But I wasn't always honest in that. I was going through the due process in a way that I didn't do it, type thing, like in a kind of a lie, trying to use the system. And it was kind of crazy for me to have a judge intervene on my behalf and have me evaluated, right?
Hmm.
And then all these treatment facilities started coming around and telling me, and Provoking Hope was one of them that came to see me
Okay.
in the county jail. And they connected with like Blanchet Farms, and they had me connected with other types of programs that they had available. And I forget the lady's name. It was I think it was Flanagan. Anyways, she came to see me, and they connected me with this other person that actually had set me up with this place called the Dalton Teen Challenge.
And these are all resources within
Yeah.
Yamhill County. Okay.
Well, no, this one's out of this one is another one out of Yamhill County, right?
Sorry, you froze up there.
And so,
Where's this one? Where's that one located?
yes, it's in Shed, Oregon. It's called the Dalton Teen Challenge.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so the crazy thing about this is that once they had gotten me, the judge actually ordered me to go there. He said, what we're gonna do is, I had 120 months over my head. I had two different counties with 60 months in one and 60 months in another, right? That was 120 months over my head, which I didn't care. And this judge,
no, it sounds like for you that was kind of like money in the bank because you wanted to go back.
Yeah. And so they sent me to the Adult Teen Challenge, which was faith-based. Well, I wasn't a person of faith. And if I thought that society was a third world country, when I got to Adult Teen Challenge, I thought I was on another planet, because these people were telling me that they loved me and wanted to pray for me. They were sharing this gospel with me, right? That basically I'd never heard really anything like it, except for when I would call my grandma, right? And I would try to hustle her for money on the phone from inside prison. And she would tell me, Richie, the only person who's going to save you is Jesus. And I didn't want to hear it, right? It sounded like a bunch of gibberish to me. And then at Adult and Teen Challenge, it sounded like a bunch of gibberish as well, because I couldn't figure out why anybody would tell me they love me and want to pray for me. And then every time I had a question, they would give me a scripture. And all I've ever done with scripture when I was incarcerated was roll it up and smoke cigarettes with it, because it's good rolling paper.
Okay.
So in my mind, I'm thinking these people are crazy. And so I talked to the counselors there, and they told me, Richie, why don't you just study and do the curriculum, and you might just learn something, and you might just meet somebody. So I started studying these scriptures, right? And I started studying all the commentaries and the concordances and stuff. And the crazy thing about it is that these scriptures started confirming 2 or 3 times from the students that were just like me at Teen Challenge. And I started to see like this hope, right? I started to see that there was this hope at the end of the tunnel here, right? Because it was getting crazy for me to a point, right? I started seeing a little bit. And then one day I'd had enough, and I was like, there was something going on with me. And I was at a thrift store where you serve. At Teen Challenge, you go to the thrift store and you serve. People donate, and you help serve the community by telling them about the program. Well, I was actually at the cash register, and I was, in my mind, I was going to steal the money out of the cash register and take off and go to prison.
Wow. Right? Wow. How long had you been in the program?
I had been there for probably about four months now.
Money.
And what had happened was, at that point, an old man, before we even opened, he came through the doors of Teen Challenge, and he basically said, hey, can you guys give me directions out of here? And I volunteered. I stepped out and I said, yeah, I'll take you out of here. I'll give you directions. And I told him just to get on the freeway and go north and south, right? Well, he'd get to Eugene or get to Portland, either way. That's all he had to do, right? You know, I'm a smart aleck at the time, right? And the crazy thing for me is that this old man looked at me after I gave him directions, and he says to me, hey, what is the eyewitness evidence that Jesus Christ was put on a cross, buried in a tomb? And what is the eyewitness evidence that he rose 3 days later and he walked the earth for 40 days? And in my mind, I'm thinking, what's going on here, right? And I said, well, I don't know, old boy. Why don't you tell me? And this old man looked at me as plain as day, and he said, well, Mary Magdalene is the first one that witnessed him resurrected. Then he said, Then he said Cephas. He said 12 disciples, 500 brothers, James, and then least of all, Paul, who wrote this scripture that's in Corinthians, right? And I looked at this dude and I says, hey, did these people pay you to come here and share this with me? So try to get me to drink the Kool-Aid. And I said, because this is not funny. You guys are playing a joke on me. And you know what this old man said to me? He took his glasses off and he looked at me and he said, son, he said, I'm lost. He said, I don't know this place and I definitely don't know you. And now that I'm here, I believe that God made me get lost and he divinely directed me here so I could tell you who died for you so that you could have a life. And that kind of blew my mind, right? So here I am going crazy with all these things going on, people telling me they love me, people giving me scripture every time I have a question. And this little old man came in and told me and shared that with me. So I go back to Teen Challenge, right? And I tell my counselor, I says, what is going on here? These people are paying people to come and see me, to share the gospel with me. And this counselor says to me, he says, Richie, he says, there's this thing called the Holy Spirit that's reaching out to you. And if you just confess with your mouth, believe in your heart, and this is what he said, that Jesus Christ was put on a cross, buried in a tomb, and rose 3 days later and walked the earth for 40 days. Wow. And there were eyewitnesses of that. If you just believe that, and I'm like, wow, this dude, like, I'm thinking, like, he said, if you just do that, then you're saved. And on July 13th in the multi-purpose room of Adult and Teen Challenge is when I did that with that counselor. And he said, Richie,
and what year was
that,
Richie?
Part done. Now all you have to do is, that was in 2021.
Okay, 2021.
And that's the day I received and I saw Jesus Christ and everything going on around me. I seen that he was reaching out to me. And that counselor told me, if you just pick up the Bible and you follow it every day, even when you don't want to, he will direct the steps of your life. And I wound up doing an internship there. I wound up working for the program. Wow. I wound up was a recovery coach. I've traveled the Pacific Northwest building connections, sharing the gospel in the streets. And I actually was an outreach coordinator for the Central Oregon Men's Campus. And I had resigned to come here to this county where my family lives outside of this county in Cherry Grove. And I actually came here to have lunch with a guy one day at Provoking Hope. And I bumped into Diane Reynolds. And she had remembered that I'd shared my testimony right here at a resource fair. And she offered me a job here. And I told her that
you came, at least in your mind, you came to Yamhill to reunite with family?
Well, my family lives up in Cherry Grove, which is Washington County.
Okay.
And then I came here to meet somebody that I knew, and he worked for Provoking Hope.
Okay, but you had really, at that point, you had no intention of ever being employed or living in Yamhill.
No. And I bumped into Diane Reynolds in the lobby, and she had remembered me because I had shared my story here once before.
Wow.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. We're good, man. Yeah.
And so what had happened was she offered me a job, and I told her I didn't have a place to live. And then she said, well, would you like to be the manager of the house too? So it was that day that I came in March of last year, and I became the house manager in the outreach engagement here in Yamhill County. And I brought all those programs here to this place that are actually being used to help people as well. There's so much more going on with, I could even begin to tell you. I've been to New York. Sure. I've been to New York, share the gospel. I walk the streets in Salem and Portland and everywhere. And I've built a network of people that we could use to get people into better, not just Yamhill County, but abroad.
And so it sounds like a lot of your training and formation for the work you're doing currently was at Adult and Teen Challenge.
Yes.
In Bend.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, wow, that's one heck of a story, man.
Yeah.
That's beyond the rational of you planned all that. It's clear that things were, bigger things were going on.
Yeah, I believe it's the Lord. It's all him. Yeah.
Richie, what are the challenges with your work? Even with your background and your experience, I'm sure that most of what you interact with doesn't shock you because of your experience and, as you would say, criminality. But what are the current challenges? There's people listening in here that will know you. They know about Provoking Hope. There's other people that don't know you from Adam or Eve. So what are the challenges for you currently?
Some of the challenges is that, like, I think we're better together collaboratively than we are like competitionally. We have these partnerships and they're good and all, like Yamhill County is really good at kind of working with us, like community corrections, and and some of the programs that we have within Yamhill County. What the challenges are is that maybe some of the other organizations, or maybe some of the other, we just have a lot of not really unity. We have a lot of disunity with the purposes. Like some of the businesses, I know they have issues with people that maybe in front of their business or something, or maybe just buy their business and being a distraction to commerce and all that type of stuff. Some of the challenges are that we're here to help, and people could be navigated to us, and then we could partner with all of them together and kind of be more effective for what we're doing. There's a lot of challenges involved in that. I think personally.
We didn't hear you. You froze there. You said there's a lot of challenges. What?
There's a lot of challenges with collaboration instead of
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think can be done about that? How do
Well,
you think,
I
what are
think
some
that
of the options that you have in your mind, or you've thought about, or you've heard from other people that more collaboration could occur?
so. I think personally that we could have more like community meetings to where
Hmm.
we could probably get at a table with one representative or maybe two from each organization that is that person that would have those conversations. That way we could kind of get a better wide scope of what we could all do together better, right?
Hmm.
I don't see too many people out in the streets, walking the streets. I don't see too many people going under bridges. I don't see too many people reaching into the prisons. That takes, I love doing it, but I think that because that's where it goes, right? It goes, the people coming out of prison wind up on the streets, then they wind up under the bridge, then they wind up back in prison, and it comes back around full circle. And that's what we're
Sure.
seeing in our community. Yeah.
Richie, is it fair to say that, for example, the street navigation that you do, and even the prison navigation that you do, not just anybody can do that? Are you there? Okay.
Yeah, it's probably fair to say that it's um, yeah, it's a person that hasn't understood it or been a part of it would probably
Or
have
lived it?
yeah.
Because, I mean, is it fair to say that back in, let's see now, when were you in Yamhill County and you were being disruptive? What year would that have been? The
That was
Wendy's, the Wendy's event.
2020. That's when.
Okay. And did you tell me also the incident on Third Street that you were looking at? I think I might jack this car, and
Yeah,
then something.
well, actually, the church that I go to now, right, is kind of crazy. Is that I didn't know it was a church, but I had sat on that steps right there, and I had gotten high there, and I actually had stolen a car from a store across the street, and at one time in my when I was trying to go to prison.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I go to that church now, and I didn't know it was a church then, but now I now it's my church. It's called
Jesus.
Praise Church. Yeah,
Okay. Right on
yeah.
Third Street, right?
Right on Third Street. Yeah,
So you actually, maybe I got that wrong from last week when we talked. You actually did steal a car
I
on
did.
Third Street.
Yeah, yeah. But well, I got in it. I didn't get away with it, but I got in it and wound up
Oh, okay.
right.
Didn't get
You
away with it,
know,
but you were trying to get back
no,
to prison.
I was trying to like. I'm not proud of it by no means.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't want to draw attention to it and
yeah,
celebrate it, but it
yeah.
is the reality of what was going on for you. How many, is that a common mindset for individuals that have been in jail or prison that possibly want to get back there because in
Yeah,
one sense that's secure and it's
yeah,
maybe some sense of even home? Is that common?
yeah. Well, it's getting a lot better because they're allowing people like us to go back into the prisons and bring that hope in there. But back at that time, and I think sometimes based on what they're doing within each prospective institution, we develop in community, right? So if I'm a part of a community that's of incarceration, then I'm going to go along with the Joneses that's incarceration. So in our minds, we develop this they're against me type. I'm not going to talk to them because they're the police or they're in authority. So automatically, and plus with addiction and coming out with nothing from prison, those mentalities are developed like they're making super criminals in there, really. And so,
Wow.
so
Well,
when we
I
come out
never
in
heard
the
it put that way.
community, of course. Well, it's kind of crazy because a lot of people that go into prison, they burn so many bridges with their family, like me,
Hmm.
that they burned a lot of things getting in there. that they come out with nothing. They don't give you anything anymore when you get out.
So tell me this, take us back to when you were released from prison, if I got the dates right, correct me if I'm wrong, 2020, and you were in Marion County.
Yeah.
What do you, we just get, you get shuttled from prison and dropped off in the streets? And like you said, I mean, the sense I get was, and I think you literally said, it's like, I'm lost. I have nowhere to go. I don't know anybody. I mean, the only thing I know
Yeah.
is to be is to be a criminal. I mean, that's what I
Yeah.
know. And so I'll go back to, is that how it works? You just get shuttled from prison, dropped off on the streets, and boom, there you are.
So they took me to the parole and probation office,
Okay.
which was COVID. So they didn't even let me go into the office at the time. So
Okay.
here
So
I
it
am.
was okay because it was a weird time with COVID.
Yeah. But in general, that's the first place that you go is the PO. So that's a crucial relationship that you build. I see
Mm,
that now. That's a crucial relationship that you're supposed to build to kind of assist in everything else in your life with that mentality, right? So that relationship, now what we do is we bridge that relationship because we're lived experience and we walk with them in that. But at the time that wasn't available. That was more of a
right. Right.
you do it your PO. So you go in right out of the gate. That's what they do. They take you to you got to go to your PO within 24 hours once you're released.
Okay, and get
Yeah,
established there, and then you
yeah.
basically okay. That's got to be a tough job,
Yeah.
being a
It
PO.
is. Yeah, because they know that most individuals are just from an experience telling them what they want to hear to get on to the
Yeah.
next thing, right?
I wonder what the caseload is for
It's
most
huge.
POs. It's huge.
Yeah, they have a lot of work. I deal with Yamhill County and abroad, and Yamhill County has a big caseload of, and what I'm seeing with them is they really want to help, but I would have to say that they probably get jaded after a while from getting a little too much people telling them what they want to hear and then not doing fulfilling with
Sure.
the plan. So, but there's success as well. We have a lot of success with the pure navigation of prison inreach right now. We have a lot of guys getting through transitional leave and they actually are driving their cars now and working and giving back to the community and all that type of stuff.
Okay. Are
Yeah.
parole violations, probation violations, are those pretty common?
Yeah. The POs,
Yeah.
that's what they, if you violate your parole, they have to violate you unless you're accountable for your choices, right?
Okay.
Like if a person, yeah, go
Oh, go
ahead, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
If a person comes to me in my house and he says, "Hey, I messed up. I'm willing to be accountable for what I did," I like that because it's a person not trying to get away with something, and when you catch them, then they don't tell you the truth with what happened. Then that's not showing any type of change or any type of partnership or any type of cohesiveness in the purpose of change. When they come and tell me, "Hey, I made a mistake. I'm willing to be accountable. What do we got to do?" I usually walk them to their POs and have them tell their PO that.
Oh, wow.
And then I tell their PO, look, if this is what he did with me, that way I'm above reproach with what I say to their PO. Then the PO sometimes, based on case specificness and past and all that, sometimes the PO will see what we could put a contract on them to help them get back into their treatment, right?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
yeah. Sometimes that's a doable thing, especially if they're accountable. I teach that same accountability.
These two houses that Provoking Hope manages, how many individuals do you have in each house?
I have 8 in one and 6 in another.
My goodness. And you're the case manager for those 14 individuals.
Yeah.
Goodness sakes, man. How do we make more Richie Inmans? How do we make more of Richie
Well, that's
Inmans?
exactly what we're trying to do. Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to train these guys that come into the house to the point that they could hold each other accountable in a healthy
Okay.
way. And then what happens is we try to get them certified. And then
Okay.
if one of them could take my job, then I
I
can move on to it. I can move.
okay. All right. It's that multiplication thing.
Yeah, teach others to teach others, right?
I like it. I think the last thing we want to talk about, and then we'll say goodbye for today, is last week you mentioned about going into the high school or high schools
Yeah,
and to Linfield. So
yeah.
tell me about that. Tell us about that.
So with a lived experience of once been into school in high school, I know this from when I was in high school that every single kid in there deals with addiction and THC and vaping and stuff like that. So those things lead into further harder like alcohols and maybe cocaine. They lead if they can. So I know that every student in there has the knowledge of that stuff. So what we have done is we've developed a prevention panel, and we go into the high school and we talk to the kids, meeting them where they're at, knowing what they deal with, and we just relate to them, and we navigate them to the prevention that they already have in place at their school, which is public health, so that we could just cultivate that conversation with the hopes of intervening when that choice comes for them to make. And they will get that choice. I hate to say that, and it's disheartening to know that every kid in high school will eventually one day get the choice to make a decision, whether it's vaping, whether it's substances, alcohol, whatever it is. So we try to go in at that capacity and start with the vaping thing. And it usually, what's crazy is it usually leads in to a lot of harder stuff. What they know from 8th grade, they're knowing this. They talk about fentanyl, and they talk about, and that's pretty disheartening as well, that our students in our high schools have the knowledge of all these things, and some of them are already involved in it because they come and talk to us.
Okay.
So how do we be the person that catches them before they get to prison or before they wind up on the streets? Well, we got to reach all angles of this issues that we have in our community before it gets to craziness, right? And insanity. Because, we have people in our houses that we've actually brought to life on the streets, and then they later came to us and came into our services, and then they went into treatment in Portland, and then they came out, and now they live in our house, and now they work for the community, and they go serve at Hope on the Hill or food boxes. So if we could reach them in the high school before they get to that capacity, man, just think about, we'll never know how much of an impact that we've had with a person based on just those efforts in reaching into the school and reaching into because we're seeing results. These kids are coming to us all over the county and saying, Richie, Aaron, we remember you. And then we go back to, occasionally we go back to the school and just meet them at lunch and talk to them, and they all remember us. So those efforts are really paying off for our youth too, because they're our next generation.
And you spoke of your colleague, Aaron. Does Aaron work for Provoking Hope and does essentially the same thing as you do?
Aaron is the manager, and he's been able to, when I brought these programs to Provoking Hope and the idea, he had the same idea. So he's been pivotal in helping me get these ideas into fruition in Provoking Hope and for our community.
Right.
Yeah.
What can people do? Let's end with this today. Well, first of all, before we get to that, are you doing similar things at Linfield? You spoke about what goes on at the high school.
Yeah, it's interesting. They reached out to me a couple months ago and wanted me to come and share at one of their, what do they call those, frat houses? Because
really?
Yeah, because we know the college life, right? Like I've watched TV, and I'd have to say it's not too far off of some of those things that we see on TV. So I went in and shared our prevention panel on alcohol, because we know that we're actually a community that actually the industry is kind of alcohol-ishy, right? Wine, right? So I know that a lot of these students at Linfield, so we vamped up our prevention panel for alcohol, and we went in there and we shared with them just to let them know that if choices get out of hand and it gets to some place, that we're here for them, and they have prevention probably in their school and counselors that they could talk to before maybe they get into a DUI or maybe something like that, right? Yeah. So we took that in there, and they want us to come back. So it was kind of cool. Yeah.
Sorry, you froze up there. That you said they want you to come back. Is that what you were saying? Okay, great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, they're wanting us to come back and share with some more frat houses. And so we're open to taking these trainings to other counties as well, right? If they want, because it would be pivotal for them to take these teachings and learn these prevention panels and prison in-reaches and build networks, so we could help a variety of people, right?
Right on. Let's end with this today, Richie. What can people do in the community to support Provoking Hope?
Well, we have golf events coming up. Sometimes we have fundraisers. Sometimes we have other ways to get involved, whether volunteer, whatever that is. It takes a lot of things to help this thing go. We sure could use volunteers and support with our golf event. That would be pivotal, because we really could use some help with some funding and stuff like that. We have it, but it's still, we're operating from here to there, right? And a lot of these organizations that, I think we're all in the same boat. I think we're all in the same boat. We sure could use some support. If you guys ever want to come in and you have somebody struggling, please come into our office. And that's why we're here. It's not
Right.
about us. It's about what we
So
get
people
to
could come
do
and
for
have
our
a tour.
community and
People
and a
could come and
community
meet the
pride.
staff, and people could come and meet
Yeah,
the staff at Provoking Hope.
yeah, yeah,
I know Diane, the founder of it. I know she's very accessible. I've just been communicating with Diane. I met her at the fundraiser. I played golf in that event
yeah,
in Newburgh. And that's where I'd
yeah,
met you before, and then I saw you that day. That's a big
yeah.
event. That's coming up when?
I'm not sure. I don't have it right now, but it's coming up in June, I think,
So
or
people can
Father's
find
Day
all the.
on our webpage, on our
Yeah, there we go.
Facebook page. Yeah,
Which Facebook page. So not a
yeah,
website, but a Facebook page.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. What
And
if people
so,
don't have Facebook? What if can they? Is there a website for Provoking
yeah,
Hope?
there's a website.
Okay.
It's let me look it up here.
I would assume it's provokinghope.org, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Okay.
provokinghope.org. And another thing, right, is that I think about this. When I think about Bob and Diane Reynolds
Right.
and what they used to do when they had what was called stormwalkers. And what they did is they would meet people where they're at in the streets, wherever that were going through addiction, and they opened up their home to them. And they would actually, whatever they did, love on them and feed them, and whatever has developed into what we see today. And I get to do the very same thing, except I go a
Wow.
lot different places than they did. I think about just the vision and the idea that lady had, that lady had, that continues and carries on to help our community. And now communities abroad are trying to get connected with what we're doing. Yeah, we're not perfect, and yeah, sometimes we have little differences, but you know what? We're experts at the field, and we're building, we're growing, and we're building, and that's
That's
what we want
great.
to do. We want to help more people, and it started with that lady and her vision to help people.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah,
Richie, thank you for today. This has
yeah.
been
You're
really,
welcome.
really good. Thank you for today. And I hope more people in the community have access and take the initiative to get to know about Provoking Hope, to meet
Yeah,
Diane and Bob, but also may you get the support that you need from other organizations and people on the streets in
yeah,
McMinnville. So
yeah,
if people see you here, it's why I chose to not do audio only because I wanted people to see, okay, this is what Richie looks like. So hopefully they'll see you on the street one day or see you in a restaurant or have a cup of coffee. I assume you'd welcome a conversation from a community member, somebody
absolutely.
just to go, hey, tell me more about and help me understand, educate me of even how to relate to individuals that I meet on the streets that are in need. So, Richie, thank you, man. Bless you.
Yeah,
God
yeah.
bless you.